The first story is about connecting the dots.
Hello everybody, it's Max with Crypto Talk now. In today's quant coverage, we're going to do something that you normally have not seen us do, and that is connecting the dots in regards to the Ripple connection for Quant. Could there actually be a connection, or is Max just trying to pull things out of thin air to get more people to watch? Well, without further ado, I'm going to give you a great outline, and if anything, I want to see what you have to state right in the comments with this. Is there something here, or is this just me trying to pull something out of thin air? Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and do just that. Connect the dots when it comes to Quant. So let's go ahead and get right into it. And if anything, since some people want me to verify some certain things, I will do just that. Here you go. This comes straight from the actual official Quant Twitter page. And of course, as you see right there, Quant Network, 121,000 followers. Now, where I'm going with this basically, before we get further into it, is I want you guys to see this particular tweet. This was put out today. All right, it says, as physical cash use declines, think about that for a minute, the case for introducing a digital alternative to publicly issued cash, whilst not necessarily supplanting cash in its entirety, grows even stronger. Now, of course, we've heard for a while now, especially been following this closely, that a lot of people feel as though that physical cash is going to eventually go away. There's been reports, whether you're a fan of this particular lady or not, Hillary Clinton, when it comes to her connection to Algorand, she's basically been quoted about stating that eventually we're going to go to a cashless society. Some people, of course, have stated, that that could very well be the case. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on as we speak. Some people have been reporting the whole thing of, there's aliens and all sorts of crazy stuff with the UFOs and so on, right? This is going to unite the world even further for let's face it, a cashless society. But let's come back to Earth for just a moment, because if anything, we need to recognize what these particular statements mean and why they should basically matter to you. So when I pull this up, it takes us basically to, of course, the site that has this particular article from City AM. And again, this was published a few days ago, but this retweet was sent out basically today. It says the digital pound is right on time to underpin the UK's transition to a digital economy. And again, think about this. This particular lady here, she's from the Digital Pound Foundation. Gilverdian's also part of the Digital Pound Foundation. The public debate around whether or not Britain should have a digital pound entered a new dimension this week. Statements were issued by both the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Jeremy Hunt, apologize if I'm not pronounced that right, and the Governor of the Bank of England, Andrew Bailey, announcing the UK government's intent to seriously explore the possibilities of implementing a CBDC for short. On top of that, this came alongside the long-awaited arrival of Constellation paper from the bank entitled The Digital Pound, a new form of money for households and businesses. And of course, it gives an outline in regards to support the whole idea of a new UK financial system. Now, I realize I live in the United States, but I follow the likes of a lot of this. I know a lot of you guys do as well. Now, it goes on to mention that despite the rise of the commercial bank money and the corresponding decline in cash uses, cash remains an intrinsic part of the money ecosystem. At least currently speaking, it really, really does, right? Let's be honest. And millions of UK citizens still depend on using it for many, many reasons. A more radical shift towards greater use of private money in the form of both commercial and bank money, or I should say commercialized bank money, and the emerging paradigm of privately issued stablecoins, which, let's face it, is really a hot topic in the news lately, could result in the system where some members of society are left behind due to the focus of the private sector on more commercially advantageous customers. Some people have basically stated, in the future, good luck to having a yard sale and things like that, unless you have some kind of digital, merchant type of device with you and so on, right? But when we get further into this, it says a digital form of public money, or CBDC, could have significant benefits for the public, so on and so forth. But I want to jump to this particular area right here, and that is where it states, by designing its own CBDC, the UK has an opportunity to play its strengths, including a desired strategic objectives in a post-Brexit landscape, and to develop a CBDC that can not only contribute to maintaining a position of global leadership, but also lead in a way of standard setting. Again, think about this. Think about how Quant creates particular ISO standards, ISO TC 307. Who basically started that? Well, Gilbert Verdian. On top of that, having effective regulations, sustainability, and delivery of ESG objectives for the world of the future. That's the key thing. The world of the future. What is that going to entail? What is that exactly going to look like? That should be another key thing, right? Well, the Digital Pound Foundation, again, what Gilbert's part of, and this particular lady, states that they are committed to supporting the development of a well-designed digital pound. Right. Again, that particular connection to Quant. But I'll get into the real hot, key things here in a bit. This might be in public form, central bank issued, or private form, privately issued stablecoins, and most likely a combination of two. I couldn't agree more, especially when you consider, the likes of what Ripple has to offer with XRP, and even XLM, right, with Stellar. So we need an effective and diverse ecosystem for these new forms of digital money in the UK. Now, here's the thing. When people mention the whole thing of a diverse ecosystem for stablecoins, let's just be honest. For a person who's new to all this, they are basically looking at like, how can you have an ecosystem for something at a 1-1 ratio, like a dollar or, 1 pound? You gotta look at it from the perspective that there's other versions of stablecoins, right? For instance, in the future, people look at Stellar basically as being what? A stablecoin. And if anything, there will be other ones that people look to become just that, a stablecoin. So it's not necessarily just a 1-1 ratio, right? But it states, we welcome the Bank of England's latest consultation, the digital pound, a new form of money for households and businesses. Recognizing the importance of public trust and confidence in the rollout of any digital pound, the bank has also proposed a design and market structure in which, importantly, neither the bank nor the government will have the visibility of user data, and which does not create a more intrusive system than associated with cards and accounts today. Now, there's a lot more in regards to this, like the introduction of a digital pound in the form of a UK CBDC, which will have impacts and repercussions far beyond payments infrastructure. But the key thing should be infrastructure. Now, I want to show you this, and it comes straight from the Quant Network. Have you been to the Quant Network website lately? Well, let's face it, a lot of us might not have been. But when I went there, I kind of see this been a little bit of revamped. There's some nice particular updates. So just off the surface, it states, like you see right here, the future of finance today. You can get started, like let's say your particular business, organization, blockchain project, you name it, right? It says unlocking the power of blockchain for everyone. Think about what that stands for. We deliver, as in Quant, interoperable ecosystems and real-world solutions that lower costs, enable new business, and mitigate risk. Let's talk. Again, key thing, let's talk. An empowered, interconnected world, we serve banks, asset managers, and other financial institutions, enterprises, and the technology partners and fintech developers who support them. Again, it's kind of like, hey, we realize what blockchain projects you have. We can do it at scale that nobody else is technically doing. Let's talk. Let's have that conversation. Now, you may be wondering, well, Max, I got to understand, I'm with you, buddy, but I really need you to pound this home. I swear I'm getting there here in a bit. So it says create value, reduce costs, mitigate risk, right? In this day and age, it's all about compliance. You always hear this talk about regulatory clarity, compliance, you name it, right? But Quant doesn't just solve things for operability and so on, right? They recognize the capital markets. They recognize the payments. You know, some people say to me, you know, Quant has nothing to do with payments. That's malarkey. You can see it right here, right? Cross-border payments, whether in digital currencies or fiat currencies, are more flexible and secure when handled over blockchain. Again, connect the dots. You literally saw what was just mentioned on the particular article that referenced the digital panel foundation. Right? Digital currencies, as we know a little bit more about that. Central banks across the world are investigating the adoption of digital currency, CBDCs, while commercial entities are issuing their own stablecoins, often to great acclaim. Yes, very, very true. Let's get more into this. Explore the future. Like it states, much of the financial world's digital future will be built on a blockchain. I found out why. Well, most of us know this. But I want to get to this key part, and this was published not that long ago, right? Like a couple weeks ago on January 23rd of this particular year. And I wish I would have been able to bring it to you at that particular time, but let's face it, a lot of times, even for myself, it's hard to keep up with everything. You know, there's over 22,000 different cryptocurrency projects, but nonetheless, look at what states here: designing secure bridges for asset transfer. And where I'm going with this is what I'm about to show you right here, and that is this right here. Shout out to Dr. Luke Riley. And it says designing secure bridges for asset transfer. Let's take a brief moment to make that particular connection to the likes of Ripple. They have stated that Ripple's XRP is going to be just that, a bridge currency. Let's kick into that right now.
Why is XRP the world bridge currency? XRP is a unique digital asset that acts as a bridge currency to other currencies. It does not discriminate between fiat money or cryptocurrency, which makes it easy for any currency to be exchanged for another. This feature makes it ideal for cross-border payments, and its growing popularity has increased demand for XRP. As Ripple services continue to gain adoption, its price is expected to increase, making it a massive investment opportunity. So, watch this video till the end if you want to become an expert about the XRP features in just a few minutes, so you will be aware of what could be the greatest investment opportunity of our lifetime.
All right, so let's be honest. A lot of us already know that, you know, Ripple is basically a bridge currency. Some people look at it as being the world's bridge currency, right? And some people even refer to it as being the future reserve currency for the entire world, right? But anyway, let's kick it back into this, and I want to show you this. All right, this has a very good, solid outline. If anything, most of this, I have to admit, I am going to read verbatim, and if anything, I might blow this up just a tad. But yeah, you know, look at this. I mean, you know, this is something else. I wish I could actually just do it in between right there. We got 175. But, you know, there's some key things basically mentioned here. If you draw your attention to the right side from Dr. Luke Riley, who is the head of innovation over at Quant, he states bridges have fewer participants and operators than major networks, and therefore they offer more vulnerabilities for attack. Now, here's the key thing. I truly believe, and a lot of you guys truly believe, that when it comes to Ripple's XRP, that they are going to be the one that is just that, the bridge currency, if you will. But with that also said, you have to recognize the bigger players that are also involved. You know, we've made statements in the past that it's not necessarily that all these guys are competing with each other. It's what they can bring to the table. A lot of times people ask me, well, Max, if you could only pick one cryptocurrency to be in, you know, your top three, Quant, XRP, XLM, you got to go with just one. I can't go with just one. Just like for the same reasons why, you know, that I don't believe that these guys are all competing with each other, right? So, with that said, I feel as though Quant definitely provides something in which they work in the background without people realizing it to solve some real issues. Let's get into some of those key issues. It says bridges are used to move digital assets from one blockchain to another and are a foundational concept of interoperability. Unfortunately, they are frequently cited as a significant vulnerability point in large-scale hacks and theft, right? For instance, I think it was back in 2022, at the beginning of the year and so on. Maybe in the midpoint of the year, we saw something happen with Solana, if you remember how that went. And it states, for instance, that this doesn't have to be the case, right? Bridges can be designed securely in the right architecture and protocols if they are basically in place. Blockchain bridges connect separate blockchain networks, as we know. They work by moving digital assets and is associated information, for instance, a token, a stablecoin, cryptocurrency, NFT, from one blockchain to another. Bridges can also facilitate the transfer of assets between layer 1s and even layer 2s for that matter. Bridges can vary in complexity. It's easiest to build a bridge to connect to two networks of the same distributed ledger technology type, such as, for instance, moving an ERC20 token from Ethereum to even the likes of Polygon, right? And that's, of course, been done for quite a bit of time now. Both, of course, are Ethereum based. However, it becomes more challenging when bridging between, listen to this, different DLT types, such as moving assets from, for example, Hyperledger Fabric, which, of course, Ripple is part of that as well. Network to, for instance, even the Corda network. Of course, we talk about that quite a bit here, especially when it comes to XDC, right? But with all that said, like it shows right here, bridges carry risk. Why do they carry just that, the risk? So it says blockchain technology has many clear advantages over centralized data technology. On top of that, its distributed nature provides cryptographic security data, transparency, and near frictionless transaction potential. DLTs use trust minimized technology. All parties involved are assumed to be potentially malicious, and so interactions are continually authenticated and validated. Now, just hear me out a little bit in regards to some of this. It states specifically, to attack a major blockchain network is extremely difficult due to its distributed and decentralized nature. True. To perform a successful attack, you will need to strike most nodes on the network simultaneously. This basically happened with Solana. I think they're going to reference that here in a bit. This so-called majority attack would usually be dependent on network size, prove extremely costly on, for instance, proof-of-stake blockchain networks. Yeah, absolutely. So it basically has a lot of energy consumption and require massive amounts of, it literally took the words out of my mouth, right? Energy consumption, power, and proof-of-work blockchain networks. Yet bridges, listen to this, have fewer participants and operators than major blockchain networks and therefore offer more vulnerabilities for attack. And I'm going to take a pause to recognize just that. Now, I'm a big proponent for, understanding, what Ripple is going to solve here, especially going into the start of, March 20th. While I'm not stating that, that specific date for ISO 222 is going to be the buy the rumor, sell the news type of date, but if anything, that is where we get the start of that particular on-demand liquidity and why that's so crucial, right? I use this particular analogy countless times about, Olympic-sized swimming pools not being fully utilized, right? They're empty, but something about getting those giant faucets to, release the water, in this case, the ODL, right? Get that thing going, right? All the people complaining about it and so on, saying, Ripple's never going to do anything. Ripple's XRP is not going to do jack diddy squat. I even heard Richard Hart basically stating that, he kind of didn't have much faith in it and so on. Teach his own. Don't get me wrong about Richard Hart. He has been really right when it comes to the 4-year cycles of Bitcoin and so on. But the key thing is recognizing some of these particular things when it comes to their technologies and how there could still be vulnerabilities. If there's vulnerabilities, you better believe that when you see some things posted on the Quant site, like where it says, are you part of this particular blockchain project or this particular financial institution, so on and so forth, let's talk. Again, let's talk. They talking to me? No. Are they talking to you? Probably not, most likely, right? If anything, it's talking to the bigger players that are involved. Again, connecting the dots. Listen to this. So it states that bridges are typically designed with smart contracts on both the origin and destination blockchain. Now, before we get even more further into this, if you happen to have seen a video, a deep dive from a while back in regards to Quant's QRC 721 standard, if you will, you understood, if you watched it, how huge that is for NFTs going forward. And if anything, that is just one of multiple layers of utility for the likes of Quant, and how massive that's going to be, especially getting into a utility run or even a real bull run. Why? Because it produces a particular layer of protection that needs to be solved. And let's face it, it's been solved already, and they're doing it at scale that nobody else is really doing. But if anything, that is a secure smart contract for NFTs. How about this, right? Smart contract code is often written by a small number of developers and might not be thoroughly checked, tested, or validated by high-quality third-party experts. Who would technically be, again, connect the dots here, a great third-party expert to make sure the likes of all of that money being transferred to, very central banks across Europe and the world and so on? It is Quant. Think about it. Think about what Overledger brings to the table, right? Now, I get it. Some people are going to say, you know what, Max? This is a stretch. This is a big stretch. But is it really? Because last I checked, they will never come out and state specifically, yeah, for sure, this is the name. Why? Because as we know, there's like NDAs, right? Non-disclosure agreements and so on. And don't get me wrong, there's certain partnerships they have and so on. And, those are key things. But again, we have to understand just that, NDAs, because that's a thing. And if anything, when it comes to especially like stocks and so on, right? I know it's a different story. There's something to be said about just that, NDAs. So let's get more into this. And like it mentioned, it says, therefore, the resulting smart contracts may have bugs and vulnerabilities that are open to exploitation. Now, check out this particular outline for bridge attack methods. And if anything, it's going to mention a little bit of what I talked about with Solana. So it states, there are two common ways to attack bridges, all right? And this is key because, if anything, it kind of gets right to the gist of just that, the two. The first one requires the attacker to find the bug in the related smart contract code and exploit that. This weakness was played on the February 3rd of 2022. See, I knew it was basically earlier 2022. The wormhole attack between Solana and Ethereum networks. Listen to how much was lost here. 120,000 wrapped Ether tokens worth about $375 million at that particular time, right? Crazy. And if anything, that's Ethereum. But here's the thing. If the new, if the financial sectors of the world, right? I should say when the financial sectors of the world are going to be going with this whole new thing of, acquiring distributed ledger technologies, whether it's the likes of Ripple, even Stellar, you name it, right? You have to have all the T's crossed, all the I's dotted, right? All of that has to be 100% secure. And if anything, maybe they already have gone ahead and done this, right? But again, understand that particular Quant connection. Look at what is also mentioned here. Another way to steal private keys, right? This is a thing. Is through weaknesses if in their off-chain infrastructure, such as via the bridge's use of hot wallets, private keys connected to running code, if you happen to know about that. This is what happened on March 29th, 2022 on the Ronin network. I remember when that happened. That was a loss of basically 174,000 ETH and 26 million USD coins worth $540 million. That's crazy. In this incident, 5 validator private keys were hacked, and on top of that, that enabled the hacker to take control of the bridge. And let's face it, you don't want some guy like that to basically make ransom, right? Now, it states considerations for secure transfer. Bridges commonly move assets using a lock-and mint flow. If you're not aware of this, this is basically where tokens are sent to a specific escrow address on the origin chain. The tokens remain locked there while a representative version of this token is minted, created, and continues to exist on the particular destination. And if anything, this creates what's referred to as a honeypot, right? And basically, you know, there's been instances where a hacker can unlock original tokens from escrow, identify exploits. It's just a horrible, horrible, bad thing to say the least, right? But it states one way for safer digital asset transfer is to use a burn and mint flow so that or I should say, that only one version of the token exists at a time. This token is burned on the original chain and minted on the designated chain. I know this is a lot of technical stuff, but if anything, it's going to give you a broader perspective of why it's so significant and why there could actually be, or if not already been done, basically an NDA with the likes of Ripple. Now just hear me out a little bit more in regards to this. So it states, the burn and mint flow does not require the use of an escrow address on the origin chain, and therefore it removes this honeypot attack problem. The other good bridge design features to use trusted execution environments, hardware and software isolated from other parts of the blockchain ecosystem to store just that, private keys. And on top of it, this type of ring fencing is best practice in many IT architectures, not just blockchain. For instance, what's a perfect example of that? Hedera's hashgraph. Hedera's hashgraph is not technically a blockchain, right? Hashgraph is a totally different consensus. And we know that, especially if you watched our particular deep dive into Hedera. Dr. Lehman Barrett even explains that in detail all the way back in 2017. I highly recommend check out that particular video if you want to learn more about some of this stuff. Now it states, trusted execution and custody environments add another layer of security for asset transfer and are an essential component for enterprise-grade DLT environments. There's, of course, additional security in regards to all this. And again, this is a little bit more of the technical stuff, but I'll get to this middle part. It says, right here, it says, in this case, usually the transaction needs to be signed again by a designated transaction sender. The transaction then commonly requires the multi-sig to be verified in a smart contract, which has the potential to introduce software bugs that can be exploited. A threshold signature scheme can offer advantage as it only requires a partial signature from each organization. These particular signatures are collected and becomes a single transaction signature, the transaction sender's signature. That can be verified by the blockchain nodes themselves. For example, no smart contract signature verification is needed in this case. Therefore, this threshold signature scheme presents fewer possible vulnerabilities than the multi-sig process. Now, this final part real quick states, finally, and most importantly, we recommend that all smart contract code be thoroughly tested and externally validated. Through who? The likes of Quant. Through what? The likes of Overledger. Think about it. Best practices for cybersecurity and the use of continuous development and improvement processes can help ensure that bridges are safe. Bridges are safe. Bridges are safe. I know, I keep saying it. Bridges are safe. If you're going to have, you know, in my humble opinion, and I know a lot of people are with me on this, right? Ripple is going to be, or is currently in the process of being, the world's biggest, right, bridge currency. That is the thing. It's not just that video clip that you saw. You can look into it more yourself. You probably have heard this even mentioned countless times by other, you know, let's face it, content creators, seen other articles, you name it, right? That bridge currency. So like it states, finally and most importantly, we recommend that all smart contract code to be thoroughly tested and externally validated. The key thing, validated through what they provide at Quant. Best practices for cybersecurity and the use of continuous development and improvement process can be ensured that bridges are safe, secure, and fit for purpose. We understand what the purpose they have with the likes of Ripple's, XRP, and so on, right? And we can use it, for instance, some of these other particular ones, right? But for me, Ripple definitely stands out. Now, remember when we did those particular deep dives in regards to putting so much emphasis on the last particular Quant videos in regards to SATP and IETF? Why didn't I do that? Well, look at this right here. International standard development. Quant is leading. Guys, listen, leading. Not in second place, not in third place, not, oh, you know, you guys got this thing called Overledger. Oh, it's blockchain agnostic. That's cool. You know, we might use it. No. You don't see anything like that. Leading the space in international standard. Who creates that standard? Gilbert Verdian. When did he do it? 2014. When was it implemented? Roughly 2015, 2016. What's it called? ISO TC 307. What's coming up at the end of March 2022? ISO 222. What is that mandate? A messaging system that all of the big banks of the world, central banks and so on, are going to be using. What particular coins and tokens are part of that? Quant, XRP, XLM, XDC, a whole bunch of others, HBAR, right? All the ones that we cover here. What's also part of that? The QFS, the Quantum Financial System. No, not tied into Quant, right? Just a similar name. About roughly 20 different tokens and coins in regards to that particular one. But the key thing is that you understand some of these particular terms. Secure Asset Transfer Protocol, SATP. And what they do, aim to standardize digital asset transfer from one network to another. Who is part of all this? Who has these key partnerships? Quant. It says, we invite interested parties to join this group. For further information can be found here. And when you click on that, it brings you to this. The Secure Asset Transfer Protocol, straight from the IETF. And what is the IETF? The Internet Engineering Task Force. They've been around since 1986. There's a reason why I give you guys an outline long before you see things like this. Because it gives you a better perspective of connecting these particular dots instead of me just coming up with one particular video where I just throw it all at you all at once. Guys, this is huge when it comes to all this. All right, so one last thing I want to point out is this right here. And basically, it's not that I'm stating that, you know, there isn't any particular Ripple connection in writing. Of course, you know, if we go back in history a few years ago, you can see, for instance, this right here, and shout out to this particular person who's SEQ, who's a DLT enthusiast. This was written, excuse me, back on October 24th of 2020. This is a whole complete particular outline. I want to get into this particular part. So it states, Overledger, as we know, is a blockchain operating system that enables multi-chain applications to be built. Again, that's the key thing here. Built, providing a platform for developers to build applications spanning multiple blockchains as well as legacy systems, and storing and updating the state across multiple blockchains. Now, in regards to specifically Ripple's XRP, check this out for yourself. Overledger connects, let me zoom in a little bit more, to the XRP ledger and enables users and clients from enterprise permission blockchains as well as public permission blockchains to use XRP ledger and just that, XRP. Digital assets can be moved across networks and settlement can then be done with XRP CBDCs. So again, at the very beginning of the video, again, connect the dots. You already understand that Quant definitely has that CBDC connection. You hear about the whole thing about, for instance, what they're creating with a digital pound. We've outlined in the past about the whole thing with, for instance, the Quant team working with MIT and also the New York Federal Reserve in regards to just that, the United States CBDC, right? You know, a digital dollar in the future. And on top of that, let's face it, before everybody else, long before everybody else, last March, roughly, 2022, the whole thing in regards to LAC chain for Latin America, right? For a digital dollar down there. Now, look at this on top of it. Like it mentions, Quant isn't competing with XRP. And let's just get that basically understood. It's not, like I was mentioning before. It's what all these particular ones bring to the table. So they're not competing with XRP. It's not a bridge asset, nor is it a blockchain. Overledger provides additional, and this is the key thing, additional functionality over what Interledger offers to enable more use cases for XRP, the XRP ledger, and all other connected blockchains and also legacy networks, right? And then last but not least, look at some of what is mentioned here. CBDCs are going to completely overhaul the global financial system. Again, look at the dates here. This is like, you know, a little over 2 years ago, like what, about 2 years, 4 months ago, right? And yeah, complete overhaul the whole entire global financial system, right? Think about what is literally here soon. The biggest change since Bretton Woods, interoperability and standards are going to be key. Yeah, no kidding. Quant Network has laid the foundations for Overledger to be the global infrastructure for CBDCs. So anybody wants to FUD Quant and state basically they don't have the infrastructure. Are you kidding me? They are the global infrastructure for CBDCs. And on top of it, as we go further down into this, you will see this particular one straight from Gilbert Verdi himself all the way back October 24th, 2020. Maybe I can blow this up just a little bit. Yep, I can. Look at this, guys. It's nice to have a blast from the past, from the head honcho, Gilbert Verdian. Thank you, SEQ, who was the guy who originally published this. Pretty cool stuff to get recognition from Gilbert, right? Thank you for the great insight and detail. We are agnostic and interoperating with different blockchains, including, there you go, Ripple XRP Ledger. Similarly, by connecting to Overledger, we help provide market access, more users and clients from enterprise permission blockchains and public permissionless blockchains to the Ripple network and vice versa. So, I mean, again, all these people stating that there is no Ripple connection, even though, I see that they're a partner, Max, it doesn't necessarily mean that there is any particular connection. And as the saying goes, DYOR, do your own research, take a blast from the past. Here you go. Read them and weep. There you go. Because again, based on what I just mentioned, you guys are smart. If anything, you can draw your own conclusion on why this makes so much darn sense. If you, for instance, understood or have watched that particular video that we did deep dive about QRC 721, understand what Quant brings to the table with what you just saw right here in regards to this whole thing of solving a problem for bridge currencies. Ripple stands out at the head of the pack, right? At the very, very top of the list. I think it's massive. There might be something that's already done, right? Of course, I don't know 100%. But again, NDAs is the key thing. I could connect the dots, and hopefully you can as well. Be on the lookout for what Quant and the rest of these guys are going to do here soon. If you like the coverage that we have here when it comes to connecting the dots and so on with ISO 222, preparing for March, check out our live show. It's every single day at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific for Crypto Talk Now. Thanks for watching this particular deep dive into Quant and that Ripple connection. And you'll have a blessed day, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.